We will now begin tangent in all quadrants. And when you learned SOHCAHTOA last week, you know that tangent is the opposite over the adjacent. Now, the opposite over the adjacent happens to be the same as taking your sine divided by cosine. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing as we go through each of the quadrants with our different reference angles of 45 degrees, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and then we'll take a look at the axes. So for quadrant 1, we know that 45 degrees. Take a look at your left hand, put down your middle finger, and we have 2 fingers on top, everything's over 2, and 2 fingers on the bottom, and everything's over 2. So we know that tangent of 45 degrees, we're going to take, remember the ordered pair goes cosine comma sine, and for the tangent, we're going to take your sine divided by your cosine. So we have sine divided by cosine. And these are the same. Root 2 over 2 divided by root 2 over 2 simplifies to get 1. So therefore, your answer is 1. In quadrant 2, remember for 45 degrees, everything ends in a 5. So in between 90 and 180, we have a reference angle of 135 degrees. In quadrant 2, we have negative, positive. So for tangent of 135 degrees, remember it goes cosine comma sine. So I'm going to take my positive square root 2 over 2 divided by my negative square root 2 over 2. A positive divided by a negative is a negative, so we get negative 1. In quadrant 3, we have in between 180 and 270. Remember our reference angle ends in a 5, which is 225. In quadrant 3, it's all negative. So we have negative root 2 over 2 and then negative square root 2 over 2. So tangent of 225 degrees goes cosine comma sine, but tangent, we take our sine, negative root 2 over 2, divided by your cosine, it's negative root 2 over 2. A negative divided by a negative happens to be a positive, so we get positive 1. And last but not least, in quadrant 4, in between 270 and 360, my degree that ends in a 5 is 315 degrees. So we have positive root 2 over 2 comma negative root 2 over 2. So tangent of 315 degrees goes cosine comma sine, and you're going to put your sine on top. So we have negative square root 2 over 2 divided by root 2 over 2. Negative divided by a positive is a negative number. They're the same, so we get negative 1. So for tangent of 45 degrees, we get either 1 or negative 1. Let's take a look at tangent of 30 degrees. Now my 30-degree reference angle, it stays right at the base of my graph, so right in the middle. 30 degrees, we're going to take a look at our left hand, put down our 30-degree finger. So we have root 3 over 2, comma 1 over 2. So in quadrant 1, 30 degrees, everything's positive. So we have root 3 over 2, comma 1 over 2. Goes cosine, comma sine. If we're finding tangent of 30 degrees, we're going to put our sine divided by your cosine. Now we're going to have to divide fractions. In order to divide fractions, you keep the top and you flip the bottom. Right off the bat, I can go ahead and cancel out the 2's. And we have to get rid of this root 3 in the denominator. So we have to multiply the numerator and denominator by square root 3. So we have 1 times root 3, which is square root 3, over. We have root 3 times root 3, which is just 3. So tangent of 30 degrees is root 3 over 3. Let's take a look at quadrant 2. So in quadrant 2, you're thinking 180 minus 30 to get 150. In quadrant 2, it's negative, positive. It goes cosine comma sine. So for tangent, you're going to take sine divided by cosine. In order to divide fractions, you're going to keep the top, flip the bottom, and it changes to multiplication. You can go ahead and cancel out the 2's to multiply the top and the bottom by root 3, not negative root 3, just root 3. The negative sign is going to carry on to the very end. So tangent of 150 degrees is negative root 3 over 3. Now we're going to do 180 plus 30, so we're at 210 degrees. In this quadrant, everything is negative, so we have negative root 3 over 2, comma negative 1 over 2. It goes cosine, comma sine. So I'm going to take negative 1/2 divided by negative square root 3 over 2. You're going to keep the top, flip the bottom, and it changes to multiplication. A negative divided by a negative is a positive, so your final answer is going to be positive. Go ahead and cancel out the 2's. You're going to multiply the top and the bottom by root 3. We change where I put my equal to sign, so we have positive 1 times root 3 is root 3 over root 3 times root 3 is 3. We have positive root 3 over 3. And then finally in quadrant 4, so we're thinking 360 minus 30 gets us 330. So 330 degrees references my 30-degree angle. In this quadrant, it goes positive, negative, cosine, comma sine. For tangent, we always take sine over cosine. Now right off the bat, I see a negative divided by a positive. So I know that my final answer has to end up negative. I'm going to keep the top, flip the bottom, and it changes to multiplication. I can go ahead and cancel out my 2's to multiply the top and the bottom by root 3. So we have negative 1 times root 3, which is negative root 3 over root 3 times root 3 is 3. So for all of tangent, where 30 degrees is my reference angle, we get root 3 over 3, root 3 over 3, positive, positive, negative, negative. So depending on the quadrant, depends on the positive or negative. But you can do the math to figure that out as you go along. Let's take a look at the axes. So we have to remember our coordinates for 0 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 270, and finally 360. So along my axes, for 0 degrees, we have our ordered pair of 1, 0. Tangent, we take sine over cosine. 1 divided by 0 equals 0. Let's take a look at the coordinates of 90 degrees, this point right here. So we're at 0, 1. Tangent, we take sine over cosine. 1 divided by 0, you can't do it. Therefore, it's undefined. What are the coordinates for 180 degrees? So we're at negative 1, 0. So we take sine over cosine. 0 divided by 1, that is 0. Not negative 0, just 0. What are the coordinates for 270 degrees? So we're at 0, negative 1. It goes sine over cosine. So therefore, my answer is undefined. Not negative undefined, just undefined. And then finally, what are the coordinates of 360 degrees? I know that it's the same as 0 degrees, 1, 0. Sine over cosine, so therefore my answer is 0. And then finally, for 60 degrees in all quadrants. So when I have 60 degrees as my reference angle in all quadrants, I'm going to look at my left hand. I'm going to put down my index finger. Everything ends in a denominator of 2. So we have 1 over 2 comma root 3 over 2. So I know that every single ordered pair is going to be 1/2 comma root 3 over 2. It's just depending on the quadrant, depends on the positive and negative. In this first quadrant, remember, 60 degrees stays really close to the y-axis. Stays all the way up here, all of them. So we have 60 degrees, so we're going to find the tangent of 60 degrees. We have our ordered pair, 1/2 comma square root 3 over 2. Cosine comma sine. Tangent, we take sine over cosine. And in order to divide fractions, you're going to change it to multiplication. So we keep the top, we flip the bottom, and go ahead and cancel out the 2, so we're left with square root 3. In quadrant 2, 180 minus 60 gets me my reference angle of 120 degrees. It's negative positive, so we have negative 1/2 comma positive square root 3 over 2. So when we find the tangent of 120 degrees, cosine comma sine, you're going to take sine over cosine. You're going to change your fractions of division into multiplication. So we have root 3 over 2 times negative 2 over 1. You can go ahead and cancel out those 2, so we're left with negative square root 3. Down below in quadrant 3, so we do 180 plus 60, and we're at 240. So 240 degrees references my 60-degree angle. In quadrant 3, it's negative negative, so we have negative 1/2 comma negative square root 3 over 2. Cosine comma sine, so we're going to take negative square root 3 over 2 all over negative 1/2. Keep in mind, a negative divided by a negative is a positive number. So eventually my answer is going to be positive. In order to divide fractions, you're going to keep the top, flip the bottom, and it changes to multiplication. The 2's cancel, so we're left with a positive square root 3. And then finally in quadrant 4, we have 270, a little bit more, or 360 minus 60 gets me 300. As my reference angle, 300 references 60 degrees. And my ordered pair is positive negative. So we have positive 1/2 comma negative square root 3 over 2. Tangent is always sine over cosine. We're going to keep the top, flip the bottom, and it changes to multiplication. 2's cancel, and we're left with negative square root 3. In OneNote, there are several problems, and I have all the solutions in the answer key in OneNote also, but I would highly suggest working on this before you do any work otherwise. Try it out.